Good morning. Thank you very much for coming to NATO headquarters. Last night, NATO allies decided to enforce the no-fly zone over Libya. We are taking action as part of the broad international effort to protect civilians against attacks by the Gaddafi regime. We will cooperate with our partners in the region and welcome their contributions. This is a very significant step taken by allies in a short period of time. The UN Security Council passed Resolution 1973 only Thursday last week. So in the course of a single week, NATO allies have launched both the arms embargo and the no-fly zone operations. This is a clear demonstration of allies' commitment to fulfill their obligations under the UN mandate and to show their resolve to do what it takes to protect the people of Libya. As NATO's no-fly zone operation prepares to conduct missions over Libya, the coalition operation will continue to put pressure on the Libyan regime. Under Operation United Protector, NATO ships, submarines and jets are cutting the flow of arms and mercenaries to Gaddafi's forces. At the same time, NATO is actively considering whether to take on a broader role under the UN Security Council resolution. Without prejudging the deliberations, we would expect the decision to take over all operations in the next few days. At this stage, our mission is to close Libya's airspace to all flights except 8 flights. NATO pilots and controllers will do everything they can to deny the Gaddafi regime any use of air power, and they will do so with care and precision to avoid harming the people of Libya. The direction of NATO military operations is the responsibility of the North Atlantic Council. Joint Forces Command Naples will command the operation. We expect that ministers will set the wide political guidance at next week's international conference in London to take forward the implementation of the UN Security Council Resolution 1973. The NATO Secretary General will attend the London conference. NATO is acting as part of the broad international effort in support of the people of Libya. I have with me today Group Captain Geoffrey from NATO's International Military Staff Operations Division, who will brief you on how no-fly zones operate. He has wide experience of no-fly zones. Geoffrey.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Let me just run through some of an outline of how a no-fly zone would work, and then perhaps I can come back and answer any questions. First and foremost, what we're looking to do in a no-fly zone is prevent any air assets from attacking civilian populations. But importantly, we're also putting in place the ability to allow authorised flight activity to continue during the operation of a no-fly zone. And how do we do that? Well, the first is that you have to establish a good situational awareness of the area for which you are responsible. And at this time, it's a particular focus on the coastal region of Libya. We're there to discourage, deter and prevent all forces from conducting air operations unless specifically authorised. And I would just make the point at this stage that no-fly zones are impartial. There is no one authorised to fly within that zone. It's not necessarily pro-Gaddafi or anti-Gaddafi forces. It's the impartial enforcement in line with the UNSCR of a no-fly zone, except for those missions that are authorised. Of course, a part of that, you provide an air-to-air response to any no-fly zone violations, and I'll come back to that in a moment. But you also need to ensure the safe conduct of any other military operations that need to be carried out in the area. In particular, there will be coordination, monitoring and control of the conduct of any approved flight activity. And as was mentioned earlier, that may well be aid flights in and out of Libya at some stage. Just to clarify then on providing an air-to-air response, it's not something that is necessarily immediately that anything that flies is shot down. There is a careful command and control situation usually making use of an airborne warning and control aircraft, AWACS, as I'm sure you've heard it termed before. They provide information and a control and command link back to the commander for the tactical aircraft enforcing the no-fly zone. Within this, we're actually in the process, of course, of going to take over something that is already established. And I'm sure many people will have questions about how that will occur. Well, once the timing is worked out to take over the operation, lead time has to be allowed for the Combat Air Operations Centre, which is in Izmir for this operation, to get full briefings from the chain of command on the situation as it pertains, the forces in place, and then develop its own set of orders. This is fairly straightforward, certainly for the crews and the aircraft enforcing the no-fly zone, because they get specific briefings on the situation, the rules of engagement, etc., before they fly. So in many respects, this will be transparent at the lower levels as the handover takes place. As I say, because the no-fly zone is already in place. Within those actions, there are a number of things that can be done. As I say, it's not just a question of shooting down aircraft because they happen to be there. Aircraft may inadvertently come into the no-fly zone from outside of the airspace. There may be other reasons for air activity. So you go through a process of intercept, intervene, and potentially engagement. But the principle that we use in any no-fly zone is always to apply the minimum force required to achieve the effect. And that's where there are some very clear rules of engagement laid out for the crews to make decisions on what they do, and pretty much always refer up the chain of command for further guidance and authority on what to do next. I think at that stage, I'll probably, without going into too much further technical detail, leave it there and be ready for questions to come back at a later stage.